Everything you think you know about medieval food is wrong. It all starts with one thing: bread. Yes, medieval people ate bread. A lot of bread. An average laborer consumed about 2 to 3 pounds of bread per day. But here's where the myths crumble like, well, old bread. First, bread wasn't just bread. You had a whole spectrum based on what grains were available. Wealthy peasants and artisans, they ate maslin, a mix of wheat and rye that was actually pretty tasty. Poorer folks ate darker rye or barley bread. And yes, sometimes beans and peas were ground into the flour to stretch supplies. Was it Wonder Bread? Absolutely not. But according to analysis from medieval bread remains found in sites like Coppergate in York, this stuff was nutritious, filling, and often flavored with herbs or seeds. And here's something that'll blow your mind: trenchers. These were thick slabs of stale bread used as edible plates. You'd pile your stew or pottage on top. The bread would soak up all those juices, and then you'd eat the plate. If you were wealthy, you'd give the trencher to the poor or your dogs. Talk about zero waste. But bread was just the foundation. Let's talk about what went on that bread. Every medieval household had a cauldron, and in that cauldron, pottage. This was the dish that defined medieval cuisine for regular people, and it was actually good. Pottage was basically a thick stew that simmered all day. You'd throw in whatever vegetables were in season: onions, leeks, cabbage, peas, beans, turnips. You'd add herbs from your garden: parsley, sage, thyme, mint. And here's the part that surprises people: you'd add meat. Wait, didn't peasants never eat meat? Wrong. Archaeological evidence from bone analysis shows that even lower-status medieval people ate meat regularly, just not the fancy cuts. We're talking bacon, salt pork, the occasional chicken, and during autumn, fresh pork from the annual pig slaughter. Coastal villages had fish and shellfish. Inland communities near forests, game birds, rabbits when they could poach them, which they definitely did, despite the laws. A 13th century household account from a Canterbury estate shows that workers received a daily allowance that included bread, pottage with bacon, cheese, and ale. This wasn't a feast, but it wasn't starvation rations either. The pottage would change with the seasons. Spring pottage was green with fresh herbs and young vegetables. Winter pottage was heavier: dried peas, beans, salt pork, and root vegetables stored from harvest. Can you imagine that smell on a cold January morning? Honestly, I'd eat it. Let's talk dairy, because medieval people were serious about their cheese game. Cheese was a preservation wonder. You couldn't keep fresh milk for long, but cheese? That could last months. Every region had its own varieties. England alone had dozens of local cheese types, many ancestors of cheeses we still eat today. Fresh cheese, aged cheese, soft cheese, hard cheese. Documents from manor courts and account books show cheese was a daily staple. Workers often received a weekly cheese allowance as part of their wages. It was protein, it was portable, it was delicious. But here's the real medieval superfood: ale. Yes, ale. Not beer. That came later with hops. Medieval ale was a thick, nutritious, slightly sweet drink that everyone, and I mean everyone, drank throughout the day. Why? Because water could make you sick, but the brewing process killed harmful bacteria. An adult male laborer drank about a gallon of ale per day. Brewing was women's work, done at home in every household. These alewives were so important that they became a recognizable symbol, often shown with a broom outside their door to signal fresh ale was ready. Okay, you're thinking, but it was still pretty monotonous, right? Actually, the medieval calendar was full of feast days. We're talking 40 to 50 major religious festivals per year, where normal work stopped and communities celebrated with special foods. Christmas, Easter, Saints' Days, harvest festivals. each came with traditional dishes. Pancakes on Shrove Tuesday, hot cross buns at Easter, roasted goose at Michaelmas. These weren't noble luxuries, these were community traditions. And here's something fascinating. Even regular people used spices. Now, not expensive spices like cinnamon or cloves. Those were for the wealthy. But according to pollen analysis from medieval cooking sites, people used locally grown herbs liberally. Mustard, garlic, fennel seeds, coriander, dill. The archaeological dig at a 14th century peasant household in Warham, Percy, England, found evidence of mustard seeds, coriander, and flax in their cooking area. These weren't bland, tasteless meals. And fruit, apples, pears, cherries, plums, berries, all eaten fresh in season and dried or preserved for winter. Medieval people made fruit tarts, preserves, and even fruit-based drinks. Okay, so we've covered what regular people ate, and it was pretty good. But let's be honest, what were the nobles eating? Because the difference isn't quite what you'd expect. It wasn't that nobles ate more food, they ate different food. And a lot of it was about one thing: showing off. Nobles ate performance food. Food is theater. We're talking roasted swans served with their feathers glued back on to look alive. Peacocks displayed with tail feathers spread. This wasn't about taste. This was about impressing your guests and showing you had money to literally burn. And these dishes weren't just sitting there looking pretty. They were presented. Servants would parade them through the hall while musicians played. It was dinner as spectacle. Then there were the spices. Nobles had access to expensive imported spices, cinnamon from Ceylon, saffron worth more than gold by weight, pepper, cloves, nutmeg brought by Venetian traders from the other side of the world. Now, did these taste better than the local herbs regular people used? Not necessarily, but they cost a fortune, and that was the point. Status through your seasoning. A noble feast could have 7 to 10 courses. But here's the thing. Each course might have 15 different dishes presented all at once. You weren't expected to eat everything. You'd pick, taste, maybe eat a few bites of several dishes. The food would just keep arriving. Roasted meats, elaborate pies, jellies molded into castles, sugared fruits, fish dishes, even though it's not a fast day, multiple wine types. It was about variety and abundance on display. And this would go on for hours. 3, 4, sometimes 5 hours of eating, drinking, and entertainment between courses. Now here's the ironic part. This diet often made nobles sick. Too much meat, too much wine, not enough vegetables or fiber. They suffered from gout, painful joint inflammation from too much rich food. It was literally called the disease of kings. Obesity was common among the wealthy. Digestive problems, kidney stones, heart problems. All that luxury came with a price. Meanwhile, your average peasant eating seasonally, locally, with actual vegetables, fiber, and balanced meals, often healthier. Not wealthier, but healthier. So yes, nobles ate differently, way more expensively, way more elaborately. But better. They had swan and saffron. Regular people had nutrition, balance, and food that didn't make them sick. They had community meals where everyone actually enjoyed eating together instead of performing for hours. Honestly, I'd take the pottage.